students. Myself, Dr. Rama Sarojini. In previous lecture, we have studied about the proximate analysis of coal, which was taken from MSc 4th Sem, 4th paper, from the unit fuel analysis. Today I am going to deliver a lecture on the topic ultimate analysis of coal. It is a comprehensive analysis. So actually it is done to confirm the composition of coal, and this is required for the utilization of coal for different industrial purposes, and it is necessary to determine the percentage of different components so as to classify the coal, in different categories, to fix the price, and to use it for different purposes depending upon its composition. This analysis means ultimate analysis includes the estimation of carbon, hydrogen, sulfur, nitrogen, and oxygen. So one by one we will discuss. First, carbon and hydrogen content of the coal. What we have to do? We have to take a known amount of coal in a combustion tube and is burnt in excess of pure oxygen, so that for the complete combustion of carbon and hydrogen would take place. So the carbon and hydrogen present in the coal is converted into carbon dioxide and water vapor respectively. This is the reaction. See, this is carbon from coal plus oxygen gives CO2 gas. Hydrogen plus oxygen, it will give water in the form of vapor, that is gas. These gaseous products produced in the combustion tube are passed through two bulbs. One bulb having anhydrous calcium chloride to absorb water, and other having weight amount of potassium hydroxide, and the role of potassium hydroxide is to absorb carbon dioxide. So if these two bulbs will absorb anything, definitely there is increase in the weight. So by the increase in the weight, we are able to find out the percentage of carbon and hydrogen in the coal, present in the coal. So this is the diagram. There is a combustion tube in which the sample of coal is taken in a platinum container. Pure dry oxygen is passed through here for the complete combustion of coal. And one more thing is there, that is copper oxide wire gauge is there. This is also to provide more oxygen for the combustion of carbon and hydrogen present in the coal. So after combustion, carbon dioxide and water vapor are produced. Another things will also produce, but these two bulbs will absorb simultaneously that water vapor and carbon dioxide. So first they are passed through anhydrous calcium chloride where water vapor is absorbed, and then it is passed through potassium hydroxide tube to absorb carbon dioxide gas. The reactions: potassium hydroxide plus carbon dioxide, it gives potassium carbonate plus water. Then calcium chloride, this is anhydrous, it will react with the water vapor and it will give the hydrated calcium chloride. This is CaCl2.7H2O. Let the weight of coal sample taken is equal to x gram. The sample weight of coal which we have taken is x gram. Increase in weight of calcium chloride bulb means after absorption and before absorption, the difference is z gram, and similarly increase in weight of potassium hydroxide bulb is equal to y gram, that is after and that is before. Now calculation of carbon content. We know that the molecular mass or molar mass of carbon dioxide is 44, out of which carbon is 12 gram. So 12 gram carbon dioxide contains 12 gram of carbon. Therefore, if y gram of carbon dioxide is produced, it will contain 12 upon 44 multiplied by y gram of carbon. Since we have taken a very small quantity of carbon, that's why it should be converted into percentage. So percentage of carbon is equal to 12 divided by 44 multiplied by y divided by weight of coal taken, means we have taken above, just we have shown it with x gram, so we can write here x multiplied by 100. So using this formula, we are able to find out the percentage of carbon in the given sample of coal. Now, calculation of hydrogen content. We know molecular mass of water is, or molar mass is 18 gram. Out of this, hydrogen is 2 gram. So 18 gram water contain 2 gram of hydrogen. So if Z gram of water is produced, then it will contain 2 upon 18 multiplied by Z gram of hydrogen. Similarly, percentage of hydrogen is equal to 2 divided by 18 multiplied by Z divided by weight of coal taken, that is previous slide we have taken X. So we can write here X multiplied by 100. This is the formula to find out the percentage of hydrogen. Now come to the significance of carbon and hydrogen. So greater the percentage of carbon, greater is the calorific value. We have studied in proximate analysis also. Greater the percentage of hydrogen, greater is the calorific value of coal, because hydrogen itself is a good combustible gas. Hydrogen in coal varies from, in general, 4.5 to 6.5% from different quality of coal, that is from peat to a better quality, that is a good quality, bituminous. Now come to sulfur. Sulfur present in the coal is treated with fuming nitric acid, very concentrated nitric acid, and so that the sulfur present in the coal is converted into sulfuric acid. So sulfur from coal gives sulfuric acid by treating with fuming nitric acid. The sulfuric acid is precipitated as barium sulfate. If you add barium chloride solution, barium sulfate is precipitated. So then the sulfur, complete sulfur which was present in coal, is converted as BaSO4, that is barium sulfate. So the precipitate of barium sulfate obtained is filtered, then heated to a constant weight, it is dried, and from the weight of barium sulfate obtained, we are able to find out the percentage of sulfur which is given here. Let the weight of coal taken is equal to W gram. The mass of the precipitate obtained, that is of barium sulfate, is Y gram. Since we know the molar mass of barium sulfate is 233, so if 233 gram of barium sulfate contains 32 gram of sulfur, there is a misprint. 32 gram of sulfur should be there. Therefore, Y gram of barium sulfate contains 32 divided by 233 multiplied by Y gram of sulfur. Again, in the form of percentage, similar manner, percentage of sulfur is equal to 33 divided by 32 divided by 233 multiplied by Y divided by W. W is the mass of sample taken, coal sample, multiplied by 100. So by this we are able to find out the percentage of sulfur. Now significance of sulfur. Sulfur has some calorific value, but it is undesirable. What is the reason? We are well known about. Because sulfur, when react with oxygen on combustion, it gives sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide and hydrogen sulfide. And these gases are harmful. Even they cause atmospheric pollution. So the presence of sulfur is not desirable in coal. So definitely it should be in very less quantity in the coal. That's why then only the coal is greater in quality. The presence of sulfur in the coal, which is coke, which is used in iron industry, it affects the quality and properties of steel. So lesser the sulfur content in coal, better is the coal. Now come to the next content, nitrogen. So nitrogen present in the coal is estimated by Zeldal's method. Zeldal method. So what we have to do here, this is quite complicated, so try to understand properly. A known weight of coal sample is heated along with potassium sulfate, mercury sulfate, somewhere it is written mercury also, as catalyst, and sulfuric acid in a Zeldal's flask. The flask used here is named as Zeldal flask. So the role of potassium sulfate actually is to increase the boiling, to raise the boiling point of sulfuric acid. Okay. Nitrogen present in the coal gets converted into ammonium sulfate. Means the complete nitrogen is converted into ammonium sulfate. The reaction, nitrogen from coal plus sulfuric acid, it is heated, we get ammonium sulfate. This is the diagram. The first diagram, this is we are able to see the long necked round bottom flask. This is Zeldal flask. In this we have taken the coal sample, potassium sulfate, sulfuric acid, mercury sulfate. So these all are here that is heated strongly, and then these content are passed in the round bottom flask and heated to produce ammonia. Then these contents are transferred to round bottom flask and the solution is heated with excess of sodium hydroxide. Any base we can take. Here we have taken sodium hydroxide. Previously also we are able to find that is sulfuric acid we have taken here. Now here we are treating this, the content is transferred to round bottom flask and the solution is heated with excess of sodium hydroxide. So what happens there? The whole ammonium sulfate is converted into ammonia. The reaction is written here. Ammonium sulfate plus 2 sodium hydroxide, 2 moles of sodium hydroxide. We get sodium sulfate plus ammonia gas plus water. Now what happened? The nitrogen from coal is converted into ammonium sulfate and this ammonium sulfate is converted into ammonia. We have to concentrate here only. Nitrogen converted into ammonium sulfate, then ammonium sulfate converted into ammonia. This ammonia gas is absorbed in excess of known volume of standard solution of acid. Means we have to take acid. We don't know how much ammonia is produced, that's why we have to take in excess, but the strength of the acid must be known. That is a standard solution of acid such as sulfuric acid. When any other acid such as hydrochloric acid we are able to take. So what happened? This ammonia, when treated with sulfuric acid, excess standard sulfuric acid, it will be converted into ammonium sulfate. But we have taken in excess, means some quantity of sulfuric acid must remain as unreacted. So the unused acid is then determined. How? By titrating. How much acid is left unreacted is determined by titrating with, again, standard sodium hydroxide solution. So the volume of acid used in the above reaction is determined. So we have taken excess. How much is left we are able to find out with titration by titrating with sodium hydroxide. So how much is consumed? So acid used is equal to acid taken minus acid unused. From the volume of acid used by ammonia liberated, the percentage of nitrogen can be calculated. Means where the acid has been used, definitely the acid used is consumed by the ammonia produced in the above reaction. So by calculating the reacted used acid, we are able to find out the ammonia, quantity of ammonia liberated, and then we are able to find out the percentage of nitrogen. Let's see. Let the weight of coal taken is equal to W gram. Volume of acid used is equal to V1 milliliter. Normality of the acid is equal to N1. So as per the normality equation, N1 V1 is equal to N2 V2. We know this. And V1 milliliter of N1 acid, if used, means V2 ml of N2 ammonia liberated. Because we know that. Always find, this is quite easier to find in the form of normality, because we know that one equivalent of acid always reacts with one equivalent of weight. So it will be easier, calculation will be easier. And if you are taking as per molarity, then definitely you have to write out that we know that 2 NaOH plus H2SO4, then we are able to get Na2SO4. That's why. So always try to solve in the form of normality, which is the easier form. So V1 ml of N1 acid used is equal to V2 ml of N2 ammonia liberated. How much acid is used? That is called milli-equivalent of V1 and N1. This is milli-equivalent of acid, and V2 and N2 is milli-equivalent of ammonia. Always remember, this is the acid-base relation. So V2 ml of 1 in ammonia is equal to V1 into N1. We don't know how much, what is the strength of ammonia. That's why we have calculated indirectly, that is V1 into N1. So V1 is the milliliter volume of sulfuric acid taken, and N1 is the normality of sulfuric acid taken. So we have converted the strength of ammonia produced, and that is in the form of acid strength. Now, since 1000 milliliter, if we are taking 1 N means 1000 milliliter of ammonia solution having 1 gram equivalent of ammonia. So it is equal to 17 gram ammonia. So the molar mass of ammonia is 17 gram, equivalent mass is 17 gram. So it consists of 14 gram nitrogen. Therefore, V2 ml of 1 in ammonia solution has 14 divided by 1000 multiplied by N1 into V1. Instead of N1, V1, we are able to write out here V2 and N2. But we have converted V2 is equal to N1 into N1. And we have taken N2 as 1N. That's why we have written here N1 into V1 gram nitrogen. So it is mentioned here V2 is equal to V1 N1. Now again, we have to convert in the form of percentage. So percentage of nitrogen is equal to 14 divided by 1000 multiplied by N1 multiplied by V1 multiplied by 100 and divided by weight of the coal taken. So on solving 14,000 and 100, we are able to find out that 1.4. So percentage of nitrogen is equal to N1 V1 into 1.4 divided by W, that is weight of the coal taken. So these are the different formula by which we are able to find out the percentage of carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, hydrogen, etc. Now, significance of nitrogen. In most of the coal, nitrogen content lies between 1 to 2%. It has no calorific value. Why? Because it is incombustible. Hence, its presence is undesirable. So, lesser the percentage of nitrogen in the coal, better is the quality of coal. Now, the next content is ash. So, we have seen in the previous lecture, that is approximate analysis of coal. So, in similar manner, the last residue form, residue left after the complete combustion of coal, that is weight, and we are able to find out from there. So it is calculated in the similar manner as proximate analysis. Now the next, oxygen. So how percentage of oxygen is calculated? Percentage of oxygen is calculated, that is all the contents we have taken find out in percentage. So 100 minus percentage of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur as well as ash. Now significance of oxygen. Lesser is the oxygen content, better is the coal. Because oxygen is supporter of combustion but not combustible. So fuel must be combustible. So lesser the oxygen content, better is the coal. This is because oxygen content of the coal is generally associated with moisture also. So if oxygen is there, means the oxygen is there, means moisture is also there. Lowers the calorific value. Oxygen exists in combined form with hydrogen, and thus also exists, means separately or maybe in combined form with hydrogen, and thus hydrogen available for combustion is lesser. That is, we are thinking that there is suppose 10% hydrogen, but some hydrogen is in the form of that is, it is in the combined form with oxygen as water. So this is not available here. So hydrogen available for combustion is lesser than the total hydrogen present. And in general, the calorific value due to presence of oxygen of the coal decreases by about 1.7% for every 1% increase in oxygen. Now, I have told you in the previous lecture also, numerical always help to understand the theory. So here also I have taken one example. Numerical problem: 1.56 gram sample of coal was gildalized and ammonia gas thus produced was absorbed in 50 ml of 0.1 NH2SO4. After absorption, the excess acid required 6.25 milliliter of 0.1 normal sodium hydroxide for exact nutrient. So this excess acid is the unused acid. This is the another part. 2.6 gram of the coal sample in the quantitative analysis gave 0.1755 gram of barium sulfate. So calculate the percentage of nitrogen and sulfur in the coal. So 6.25 milliliter of 0.1 N normal sodium hydroxide is equal to 6.25 milliliter of 0.1 normal H2SO4. Again, in the form of normality, it is easier. So volume of sulfuric acid used to neutralize the evolved ammonia is equal to 50 ml of 0.1 normal, that is normal, 50 ml of 0.1 normal and 6.25 milliliter of 0.1 NH2SO4. That actually here it is left, their minus sign is there, again printing mistake. 50 milliliter of 0.1 normal minus 6.25 milliliter of 0. Just see here, 50 ml of 0.1 normal minus 6.25 milliliter of 0.1 normal H2SO4, and it is equal to 43.75 milliliter of 0.1 normal H2SO4. By mistake it is just left here, subtraction symbol, minus sign. So now percentage of nitrogen from the previous formula, volume of H2SO4 divided by weight of coal sample multiplied by normality of H2SO4 and multiplied by 1.4. So it will be 43.75 multiplied by 0.1 multiplied by 1.4 divided by 1.56. That is equal to 3.926%. And for the another part, we have to find out the percentage of sulfur. So percentage of sulfur is equal to weight of barium sulfate precipitate form multiplied by 32 into 100 divided by 233 and again divided by weight of coal sample. So putting all the values, 0.1755 multiplied by 32 multiplied by 100 divided by 233 multiplied by 2.6. So it comes 0.927% of sulfur. So please remember, there is a minus sign is left. So please correct it. 50 ml of 0.1 normal 6.25 50 ml of 0.1 normal minus 6.25 milliliter of 0.1 normal H2SO4, and then it will be equal to 43.75. 50 minus 6.25. So this is all about the ultimate analysis, including the numerical problem. So this is the end of the lecture. So go through another numerical, try another numerical based on ultimate analysis. Definitely it will help you to understand the theory of the ultimate analysis.